Hello and welcome to News Central Now, reaching you live from our studios in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Rita Omodia, and here are the headlines at this hour. Libyan authorities arrest 109 Europe-bound migrants. Uganda, France and United Nations sign peace agreement. France warns Mali against Russian mercenary deal. Details of the story and more coming up shortly. News Central Now at this hour begins in East Africa, where the Libyan Interior Ministry says it has arrested 109 migrants bound for Europe in the western city Zliten, some 160 kilometers east of the capital Tripoli. The ministry says the migrants include 16 women and 2 children, adding that they are of Eritrean and Sudanese origin. It adds that legal measures were taken against the migrants. Migrants who are rescued at sea or seized by Libyan authorities end up in overcrowded reception centers across the country. Libya has been the preferred point of departure for immigrants wanting to cross the Mediterranean towards European shores since the 2011 uprising toppled Muammar Gaddafi and plunged the country into insecurity and chaos. Now we head to East Africa, where we understand that Uganda, France and the United Nations have signed an agreement to support the UN Academy for peace operations. Adonai Yebare, Uganda's permanent representative at the UN, says the academy based at Entebbe will train UN peacekeepers to use unmanned aerial systems for intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance in UN peacekeeping operations missions. The training will be supported by the Ugandan military and the Ugandan Civil Aviation Authority, the country's air transport regulator. Ayebare adds that the East African country looks to more collaboration with the UN Under-Secretary General for operational support and French government on the use of digital technology in peacekeeping operations. Now in West Africa, and still talking security matters, the Nigerian army says it has put effective measures in place to ensure the attack on its defense academy, where a 7th senior officer was also abducted, will not repeat itself again. The Commandant General of the academy, Ibrahim Yusuf, while speaking to some members of parliament, says that efforts are ongoing to free the kidnapped officer. Yusuf informed members of the House of Representatives Committee on Defense that the military has improved the security of the academy and other military formations within the northwest state of Kaduna.
The ongoing efforts that we are making to recover the abducted officer, and also the measures that the academy is currently placing to ensure that this does not ever occur again. Many senior retired and serving military officers have called. They have also visited the academy because the academy is very dear not only to the military but to Nigeria as a whole.
I'm also assured by his contribution and the measures they've put into place that this will never happen again. It's an unfortunate incident that happened, but Nigerians should be rest assured that NDA is safe and other military formations along that area has been duly fortified. We're still expecting further reports from them. We've had them to come up with some other documents and further and better particulars so that we can also see and reassess.
In the meantime, a federal lawmaker has described the crisis in Nigeria's north-central state of Plateau as an act of genocide against ethnic minorities resident in the state. Dachung Bago spoke to newsmen in Nigeria's parliament, saying there has been a lot of misinformation about the crisis, which has resisted attempts to bring lasting peace to the state. He accused the federal government of lacking the political will to tackle the crisis, saying it is being misrepresented as a farmers' herders crisis when it is actually a situation where ethnic minorities are battling to end an attempt to grab their lands and communities.
The name people have tried to cage the killings on the Plateau as a communal clash. I've never seen, if it's a clash, me and you, we are fighting, we'll all go with wounds. But it's not a clash. It's pure genocide, pure land grabbing, pure chasing people from their lands. So it's not, and you see, that's the angle that if government is not seriously proactive in addressing the issue with its own name, and you're looking at it as clash, and you come to the clash is when two people are fighting, you come to the table, you settle them. But this is, I have not seen where the people that are having clash, farmers, herders clash, when it is farmers that are always chased from the land, killed on their lands are being grabbed, and you call it clash and crisis. I don't understand. The real situation, the real issue on the ground is genocide.
Now, Nigeria's out-of-school children has increased by 3 million more children within the last 1 year. This is as experts are calling for accelerated learning for many of these children in the country. One organization, which is leading the initiative in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, is urging all stakeholders to collaborate with the government to address this worrisome trend. News Central's Idong Joseph tells us more.
Available data from Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Education says about 10.1 million children in Nigeria are currently out of school. Also, the United Nations Children Education Fund, UNICEF, says about 35% children in the country between the ages of 1 and 6 have never had early childhood education. While these figures present a worrisome situation to many, experts say it is a time bomb that needs to be nipped to the bud. With efforts needed by stakeholders to address this worrisome challenge, one organization says its 3-year training program for children without any formal education will go a long way to reduce out-of-school children in the country.
We're having the highest burden of out-of-school children. It's 10.5 million. That's a huge number. So programs like this is to bring to the knowledge of the world that we have a lot to do, and there exists a community like this somewhere close to the authorities, and also calling on the need for government to do all it can to provide education for this teeming number of youths.
About 50 children have already benefited from this initiative, targeting children from nomadic families. FlexiSafe Foundation says the success of the program brings to the front burner the need for accelerated learning for the children.
Accelerated learning program meets them in their community. It helps the people in the community to buy into the project. Like you can see, all the mothers, all the people in the community are there. We assign them roles, and then we get very trained staff to come and train the children with basic numeracy, literacy, life skills. Once we are done with the project here, we train the community people how to access school, and because of the training the children have received, they are able to thrive very well in formal school.
So if you don't provide that access, they are still going to go out to school and they will be hawking, and then they will be begging on the street. So what is the solution? UBEC now, I think, with collaboration with something like this, will now take it up to the executive secretary, will now form part of our report that the program is successful. But the challenge is, what is next? They need a primary school in this community.
With Nigeria's education sector already taking a hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, available estimates say about 3 million out-of-school children have been added in the last 1 year. Experts say whatever needs to be done fast. From Abuja, Idong Joseph, News Central.
And staying in West Africa, the French Defense Minister Florence Parly has warned Mali against entering into a deal with a Russian security firm. There have been reports that Mali's military rulers are close to hiring mercenaries from the Wagner Group. Parly described the potential deal as extremely worrying, saying it would undermine efforts by France to counter the jihadist threat in the region. Wagner is believed to be operating in several African countries as Russia seeks to increase its influence. Its employees are fighting rebels in the Central African Republic, where Russian companies have secured mining concessions. Coming up on the news, Morocco records 2,785 new cases of coronavirus. More on this when the news returns. Stay tuned. Many thanks for staying with us. Now to our continued coverage of the coronavirus pandemic across the continent. We have it that in North Africa, Morocco has reported 2,785 COVID-19 cases, bringing the total infections in the country to 908,349. The Moroccan Ministry of Health says the death toll rose by 65 to 13,683, while 1,684 people are in intensive care units. It adds that the total number of recoveries from the COVID-19 in Morocco increased by 3,958 to 866,064. Meanwhile, over 20.36 million people have received the first vaccine shots against COVID-19, and over 16.87 million people have received 2 doses. Meanwhile, Nigeria has surpassed 200,000 cases from the coronavirus pandemic 18 months after the first case was identified in the West African country. This is according to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, which says Nigeria's COVID-19 cases has reached 200,057. The Public Health Agency also registered 519 additional COVID-19 infections on Tuesday from 14 states and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. The NCDC adds that the new cases represent an increase from the 387 cases reported on Monday. Of the new cases reported, Lagos had 120, Ondo 110, Rivers 74, and the FCT 58. Now in East Africa, South Sudan has received 152,950 doses of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine through the COVAX facility. These single-dose vaccines are the third batch of vaccine shipments to South Sudan from the COVAX facility. Elizabeth Achoy, South Sudan's Minister of Health, says the vaccines will ramp up the ongoing vaccination program to prevent COVID-19 in individuals aged 18 years and above. The first batch of AstraZeneca vaccines were shipped through the COVAX facility to South Sudan on March 25. The second batch of 59,520 AstraZeneca vaccines donated by France arrived on August 31, and a donation from Sweden is slated for arrival soon. Still ahead, as 76th UN General Assembly opens in New York. We'll bring you details of the story and more after the break.
Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeat and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every raise, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
Now in World Wrap, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the COVID-19 pandemic has proven to be the most challenging period the world has seen. He was speaking at the 75th session of the General Assembly, close to Osho, in the 76th session. Passing on the gavel to the new Assembly President, Abdullah Shahid of the Maldives, Guterres saluted his predecessor, Volkan Bozkır. The UN chief credited Bozkır for prioritizing a sustainable recovery and supporting countries as they rebuild systems shattered by the pandemic. Shahid opened the 76th session, noting that people can find the courage to push forward, get vaccinated, and spur a greener, more inclusive pandemic recovery.
On recovering from COVID-19, vaccinating the world is my top focus. We simply must close the gap to vaccine access. With this in mind, I will be holding a high-level thematic debate on vaccine equity with leading experts and world leaders. On my second ray of hope, rebuilding sustainably from the pandemic, I will work with the Economic and Social Council, the United Nations system, and international financial institutions to help ensure that the socio-economic recovery is forward-thinking, that it is bluer, greener, and more resilient.
We must accelerate. We need to speed up our response to COVID-19 with vaccines, treatment, and equipment for all, not only those with the most. We need to invest in all of the systems that support human development, healthcare, nutrition, water, education, and protection, and full equality for girls and women. We need countries to commit and live up to bold climate targets at COP26 in Glasgow. The war on our planet must end. The wars on each other need to end too. It's time to focus on fighting humanity's common enemy, the pandemic. The members of this assembly must speak with one voice. We need peace now.
Meanwhile, Haiti's Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, has been banned from leaving the country amid an investigation into his alleged involvement in the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. A prosecutor is seeking charges against Henry, who has been asked to explain his links with a key suspect in the killing, Joseph Felix Badiou. Prosecutors say records show the two men had multiple phone calls hours after the assassination. Moïse was shot dead after gunmen stormed his private residence in the suburb of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Moïse's death triggered a political crisis which was exacerbated when a huge earthquake struck the south of Haiti a month ago. Now let's talk business, as Tanzania's central bank says the East African country recorded a 4.9% economic growth in the first quarter of 2021. The Bank of Tanzania says this was lower than 5.9% recorded in the corresponding period in 2020. The Apex Bank says the growth was driven by construction, transport, agriculture, manufacturing, mining, and quarrying activities. It adds that the economy is expected to continue improving owing to ongoing public investment and normalization of the global economy, which will increase private sector investment and trade. The Bank of Tanzania says the performance of the external sector of the economy is facing challenges caused by COVID-19, particularly tourism. Now, the ban on open grazing by southern governors in Nigeria has continued to generate controversies around the West African country. One lawmaker from Nigeria's north-central region says the decision by governors from the south further ostracizes headsmen, denying them their legitimate right to the business within the country. Abdullahi Adamu from Nigeria's Nasarawa State spoke to newsmen in Parliament, saying government must work towards ensuring inclusion for headsmen with the same vigor it has provided infrastructure for private businesses to thrive.
You have corner shops all over the place. You go into the market, the roads are tarred, there's electricity, there's water supply, there are conveniences for toilets. These are for Nigerians. These herdsmen are Nigerians. The government has the same duty that they owe these businessmen in Lagos, in market, in Alaba, in Onitsha, in Kano, wherever. They owe that duty to the herdsman too, because he's a Nigerian. And this provisions are from public funds. They are not from the private pocket of any governor or president or senator. They are monies from the treasury of this country. And every Nigerian has a stake in that treasury. So the government has a duty to find the wherewithal to make it possible or impossible for the herdsman to go astray in the course of his legitimate living.
Now, in the world of sports, Burundi's Francine Inyonsaba set a new 2,000-meter world record at the Continental Tour Gold Meeting in Zagreb. Her time of 5 minutes, 21.56 seconds, was 2 seconds faster than the record set by Genzebe Dibaba indoors in 2017. Inyonsaba, a world and Olympic silver medal winner over 800 meters, is among several athletes banned from competing between 400 meters and 1,500 meters because of naturally high levels of testosterone. The 28-year-old says she has kept completing to inspire others. While Inyonsaba is one of a number of athletes who have been forced to change events by 2019 ruling by governing body World Athletics, she has excelled over longer distances. Still talking sports, Chelsea opened their defense of the Champions League with a victory as Romelu Lukaku pierced Zenit St. Petersburg stubborn resistance at Stamford Bridge. Lukaku, a £97.5 million summer signing from Inter Milan, was again on the mark with his first goal for Chelsea in the competition they won against Manchester City in June. Lukaku broke the deadlock when he headed in at the far post from Cesar Azpilicueta's cross in the 69th minute. In the meantime, Manchester United conceded a dramatic stoppage time goal as they lost 2-1 to Young Boys despite Cristiano Ronaldo scoring on his Champions League return for the Red Devils. And that's all on the news at this hour, but before we go, a recap of our top stories. Libyan authorities have arrested 109 migrants bound for Europe in the western city, Plateau. Uganda, France and the United Nations have signed an agreement to support the UN Academy for peace operations. And finally, we told you that France has warned Mali against entering into a deal with a Russian security firm. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store. You can also watch News Central live on Star Times Channel 274, AVO TV Channel 23, Vision 247, Free TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Rita Omwodia.